Hi, gang. Thanks for tuning into another Publisher Parish Design Diary. And what I want to talk about today is ideas and thinking. So, this was an aspect of academia that it was important to me to model somehow in the game is the concept that you need to come up with ideas and things that you're going to work on or write about. In the research or creative side of academia, you are trying to create new things, new knowledge. If you're doing experiments or researching in an archive, whatever it is, you're trying to find things that nobody has found out before and write them up and share that. That's how our body of knowledge grows. That's part of what the job of an academic is, particularly if you're at a research institution. So it was important to me that in the game, it wasn't just that, okay, you spend 4 units of time writing something and you have a finished thing and it's done, but to actually include this idea that sometimes what we are doing is thinking. I know there's a lot of times in my work where at the end of the day, I'm like, man, I didn't write a whole lot, but I was thinking and playing with this idea and figuring out what I wanted to do with it or how it could work. And that's part of our work as well. So I spent a lot of time playing with the mechanics on this and trying out different things and trying to see what felt right. Because I wanted something that had this concept of you have to spend some time brainstorming and thinking and coming up with what you want to do, and trying to come up with a good idea that is worthy of an article or a book or whatever you're trying to publish, and had some randomness to it. So it's not just, I sit down for this amount of time, boom, I have this idea. Sometimes you get a flash of inspiration and something comes to you right away and like, man, this is brilliant. This is great. Sometimes you might spend days like puzzling over some aspect of a research problem you're working on and just thinking about it and playing with it in your head and trying to figure it out. So the first thing I tried was this idea of thinking time, where basically at the beginning of the year, you kind of had to designate how much time you were going to spend just thinking and brainstorming, and then that translated to some probability of you would have an idea. It was pretty cumbersome. It involves a lot of calculation and felt way more complicated than the mechanic needed to be. So I tried a few other things. I tried some variations on what the calculations and mechanic would be there. And what I settled on for the version that I have right now, I can't say permanently because things can always change, but it seems to be working pretty well, is this idea of there's cards. These are idea cards. So here's the current backs of those cards, light bulb symbolizing idea, not a final design. This is another one of my just AI generated, I needed something for the prototypes. And you can spend some time to draw idea cards, and some of those cards will have ideas, some of them will not. This was another one I played with, whether it was something that you could only do once a year and kind of had to say, like, I want to draw 3 idea cards, but if none of them was what I wanted, then I have to wait till next year, or something you could just do one at a time. As of right now, both for simplicity and I think to better model the reality of the situation, you can do as many per round as you want and you do them one at a time, with the idea that in real life, if you were working on a project and came up with an idea, you'd pursue that idea and work on it instead of like, well, I already said I was going to spend the next month trying to think of another idea, even though I already have one. And on the flip side, that if you had thought like, I think I can come up with an idea pretty quickly, and then you didn't, you'd probably choose on the fly to spend more of your time trying to work on this idea and come up with something that you wanted to pursue. So as of right now, it's you spend 1 time unit to draw 1 idea card, and you can do that as many times as you want. And what the idea cards then actually are when you flip them over, so there's some that are this, just say drawing a blank, and this would be the concept of, I was working with this idea, I was wrestling with it, and I haven't really figured out how to crack it. I haven't figured out what this research project is or how to write it up. And you're going to have to draw another card if you're trying to come up with something. And so there's several of these in the deck. And then there's these 2 options that are basically a big idea or a small idea. Just the sort of concept of small idea is something that I could write up in an article. A big idea is something that I could write up into a book, or if you prefer, you can cram it all into an article. And these also clear writer's block. I mentioned in another design diary that one of the things you can do to other players is play a writer's block on them. It prohibits them from moving forward on a project until they come up with a new idea and get around the writer's block. So these will both clear those. And then there's some other specialty cards here that there's just a couple of in the deck where you come up with an idea for something while you're thinking, but it's not necessarily what exactly you were looking for. So these are the main ones. Is I'm trying to come up with a new project to start, and this is how you get an article card or a book card to start working on that project and putting the time into actually researching and writing it so that it can get published. But it all starts with the idea. That's the concept of how thinking time works in the game currently, and how that then translates to ideas and to your various research projects. And of course, you can be working on more than one research project at a time. Most people I know in academia are. But when you're trying to get a new project going, this is the way you do it. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.